We've been getting a lot of messages about what you guys can do to help us in our search for Caitlyn, so here's a couple things that would really help us out. The first and most important thing you can do to help us is donate and share our GoFundMe. We rely on the public's donations to be able to hire outside help, pay for ad space, and other sort of testing. The next thing you can do is follow our Facebook page, Find Caitlin Denison. It has all of the information that we know, as well as our own personal tip line and email. It also has the link to the GoFundMe. It's been over 5 years since we've seen or heard from Caitlin, but we're not giving up.
On January the 10th, 2018, a 19-year-old woman walked into a Walmart in Midland, Texas. She connected her phone to the store's Wi-Fi network. Then she made a call to her sister. The conversation was short, but what she said during that call would immediately raise alarm. Caitlin Marie Denison told her sister that the man she had traveled to Texas with made her afraid for her life. She also said he tried to force himself on her. While they were speaking, Caitlin sent a location pin. It showed exactly where she was standing, inside a Walmart on North Midland Drive. The call then suddenly ended. Caitlin had noticed the man approaching and she hung up. That brief conversation became the final confirmed contact that anyone ever had with her. After that moment, Caitlin Denison disappeared. This is the story of how a 19-year-old woman traveled across the country with a man that her family didn't even know the name of, and then vanished less than a day after arriving. In this video, I will lay out all the disturbing details of this case. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if all of that sounds like your kind of thing, then please do join the Dark Case family now by simply hitting subscribe. Judging by some of the comments I get, I feel like I need to say this in every video, but guys, I am a human being. And it's a bad time to be a human creator right now. I'm working tirelessly to push back against the vast quantity of AI content that now overwhelms our feeds here on this platform. But it really has gotten to the point that I can't do this alone. Don't get me wrong, you just being here does mean so much, and you do allow me to continue sharing these stories. However, I now also have new membership tiers here on this channel, where you can access perks like early access to videos and exclusive videos, and also a behind the scenes podcast called Jack's House that I record in a cemetery in my car. I really do appreciate all of you either way, and believe me, this is not a pressure sale at all. And now for today's silly little question. If there was a $100,000 ransom on you, do you think that people you know would pay it? Let me know down in the comments. But now, on with the video. Caitlin Marie Denison was born on August 7th, 1998. She grew up in Reno, Nevada. Friends and family described Caitlin as outgoing, funny, and someone who easily made people laugh. The person closest to her was her younger sister, Rachel Denison. The two of them were only about 13 months apart in age. Because of that small age gap, they grew up doing almost everything together. They attended the same schools, and they shared many of the same friends. Rachel later said that they spoke to each other almost every day. Life inside the Denison household, it wasn't always stable. Their father worked long hours, and their mother struggled with alcoholism. As a result, the siblings often depended on each other for support. Caitlin was the oldest child, and at times she took on a protective role towards her younger siblings. She also had quite a distinctive appearance that makes her quite recognizable.
A lot of people are asking us to make a video with more details because they don't have a Facebook page, so that's going to be this video. Caitlin has these two tattoos on her fourth finger. She is the letter M, and then above it, an alien head. On her other finger, she has this zodiac sign. She would always wear big rings like this. On one of her wrists, she had the Eye of Horus as well as these little stars. On her other wrist is the Libra scales. Caitlyn also has stretched lobes, a second ear piercing, a nose piercing on each side, and sometimes wears a septum. She was also known for wearing the little tattoo choker. This is also Caitlyn's natural hair color right here, but she usually bleached it. This photo is Caitlyn without makeup. This shows Caitlyn with heavy makeup as well as her nose piercings that she would wear. She has a freckle right below her lip.
Caitlyn had struggled with depression during parts of her life, and those struggles left visible marks on her arms and legs. But according to the people who knew her best, those struggles did not define who she was entirely. What they remembered most was her humour and her ability to make friends quickly. That is part of why the silence after her phone call felt so alarming. Caitlyn and her sister had always stayed in contact, even during just ordinary days. If something funny had happened, Caitlyn would call. If she needed help with something small, she would call. And that pattern had existed for years. So when the call from the Walmart parking lot became the last conversation that anyone had with her, Rachel immediately knew that something was wrong, and she knew that phone call was a clue. Sometime in 2017, Caitlyn met a man from Midland, Texas while she was living in Reno. Exactly where they met has never really been confirmed. Some accounts say it may have been at a club. Other reports suggest it could have been at a McDonald's in the Reno area. What investigators have confirmed, though, is that the two had known each other for several months before Caitlyn disappeared. During that time period, Caitlyn occasionally mentioned him to her sister, but there was always a critical detail missing from those conversations. Caitlyn never told her family his name. She also never showed them a photograph of him either. So this limited information that she shared really did create a major obstacle once the investigation began. The only detail that the family knew was that the man worked as a truck driver. Investigators did later confirm that he was connected to the Permian Basin oil industry. The Permian Basin is a major oil-producing region where contract drivers frequently move between temporary job sites. Some live temporarily in RV parks or in worker housing camps near oil fields. Investigators believe that the man Caitlyn met may have been living in an RV whilst working in the area. There's also an important detail that I should mention about Caitlyn. Before she took that trip with a man, there was another development in Caitlyn's life that added a layer of uncertainty. Shortly before leaving home in Reno, Caitlyn reportedly discovered that she might be pregnant. According to her sister, Caitlyn had taken a pregnancy test that showed a positive result. At that point, she had not yet decided what she wanted to do. Family members later said that she was still thinking through her options. What investigators have never been able to determine is whether her situation influenced her decision to travel to Texas with the man. What is known is that in early January of 2018, Caitlyn made a sudden plan. She was going to Midland, and she would be travelling there to see the man that her family knew basically nothing about. In early January of 2018, Caitlin Denison made a sudden decision to leave Reno. Shortly before the trip, she went to a friend's house where she had previously left some personal belongings. She collected clothing and makeup that she had stored there. It was around that time that Caitlyn told her sister Rachel that she was planning to travel to Texas. She explained specifically that she would be going to Midland, and it was then that she made an unusual request. She asked Rachel not to tell anyone else in the family about the trip. The reason for that request has never been clearly explained, but what investigators later confirmed is that the trip moved forwards almost immediately afterwards. On January the 9th, 2018, Caitlyn boarded a flight from Reno, Nevada to Midland, Texas. Records show that she arrived in Midland at approximately 1 p.m. Investigators believe the flight may have included a layover somewhere along the route. The most likely locations were either Las Vegas or Phoenix. Family members later said that they never actually learned which airline Caitlyn used or what the flight number was. According to reports connected to the case, Caitlyn may not have had identification with her when she boarded the flight. And whilst it is uncommon, airline staff can sometimes verify a passenger's identity through some other procedures if identification is missing for internal flights. Once Caitlyn arrived in Midland, Investigators believe that she met the man that she had known for several months. Authorities believe that Caitlyn spent the night in the man's RV. The RV was reportedly parked in the West Odessa area at the time. West Odessa sits just outside the city of Odessa, and it's part of the larger Midland Odessa region connected to the Permian Basin oil industry. And this is where that temporary housing like RV parks and worker camps are situated. By the afternoon of January the 10th, 2018, Caitlin Denison had been in Midland for less than 24 hours. Investigators believe that she had spent the previous night inside the man's RV in West Odessa. At some point during the next day, the RV was moved to another location south of Interstate 20 and Loop 250 in Midland. One confirmed stop that day was a Walmart, located at 4517 North Midland Drive. Inside that store, Caitlin connected her phone to the Wi-Fi network and called her sister. During the call, she said something that immediately raised concern. She told Rachel that the man that she had been travelling with actually made her afraid for her life. She also said that he had tried to force himself on her. Whilst they were speaking, Caitlin sent her sister a location pin showing exactly where she was. This phone call only lasted a short time, and when Caitlin saw the man approaching, she ended the call. After hanging up, she sent a few additional messages, and in those messages, she repeated that the man made her feel afraid, and that he was angry because she would not let him touch her. And it would actually be those messages that would become the last confirmed communication that anyone ever received from Caitlin. Investigators later said that they believed Caitlin and the man then visited at least 2 other locations that same day. One was a Domino's Pizza on Linda Avenue in Odessa. Another was Rick's Cabaret, a so-called adult club also located in the Odessa area. Authorities believe that Caitlin may have gone there to look for employment, and at the time that she disappeared, she had reportedly been trying to find work as an exotic dancer. Whether she actually spoke with anyone inside the club that day, it's never been publicly confirmed. But after these confirmed locations, the trail of movements then ends. No additional phone calls were ever made. No further messages were ever sent. And it seems that nobody ever saw Caitlin ever again. 2 days after Caitlin's final phone call, her family reported her missing. On January the 12th, 2018, Caitlin's sister Rachel and their father filed a missing persons report in Reno, Nevada. Because Caitlin lived in Reno, the case initially began there, but investigators quickly realized that the most important events had taken place in Texas. The investigation soon involved authorities in Midland, the place where Caitlin had last been seen. Early in the investigation, police were able to identify the man that Caitlin had traveled with. They located him and conducted an interview. They also spoke with his mother during the early stages of the case. According to information later publicly released, the man told investigators that Caitlin had just left on her own. He claimed that during the night she quietly packed up her belongings, and then she simply walked away whilst he was asleep. He said that he did not know where she went after that. But in Caitlin's case, several investigative limitations quickly appear. One of the most significant problems involved surveillance footage. Caitlin had been confirmed to be at the Midland Walmart on January the 10th. However, investigators did not request the store surveillance footage until several months later, and then understandably, by that time, the footage had already been deleted. And the same issue occurred with CCTV from airports. Because investigators did not have the airline or flight number early on in the case, airport surveillance footage was no longer available by the time it was actually requested. This could have shown so much, but we'll never know. The Walmart footage could have shown who Caitlin was with inside the shop, during the time that she made that phone call, during the time that she was saying she was scared of the man. Another challenge involved Caitlin's phone. She had been using prepaid phone cards and often relied on Wi-Fi to make calls. So without a traditional cellular service record, investigators had only limited ability to track her movements. At one point though, a woman contacted authorities, claiming that she had given Caitlin a ride somewhere in Midland. Investigators later said that the sighting did appear to be legitimate. However, details about where that ride ended have never been publicly clarified. Meanwhile, investigators attempted to speak to the truck driver, the strange man, once again. When they returned to the residence where he had previously been staying, he was no longer there. so the person that is believed to be the last individual to see Caitlyn had already left or maybe fled the area. Several months after Caitlin Denison disappeared, a piece of footage began circulating widely across social media. The video came from a Ring doorbell camera in Montgomery County, Texas. It showed a young woman approaching a house in the early hours of the morning. She appeared distressed and disorientated. The woman repeatedly rang the doorbell and looked back over her shoulder, as if she was afraid that someone might be nearby. What immediately drew attention were her wrists. They appeared to be wrapped in broken restraints. The woman was barefoot and wearing only a t-shirt. Because at this time, Caitlyn had been missing for months, people quickly began comparing the woman in the footage to her. Some viewers believed that the woman in the video could indeed be Caitlin Denison. For Caitlyn's family, the footage was disturbing to watch. Her sister Rachel later said that when she first saw the video, she briefly wondered whether it could actually be Caitlyn, but investigators soon worked to identify the woman, and they later confirmed that the person in the video was not Caitlin Denison. She was instead a 32-year-old woman who had thankfully escaped a DV situation. After leaving the home where she had been held, she ran through the neighborhood seeking help. The man in that case never really faced justice because after contacting authorities, he passed away. For Caitlyn's family, this moment created another brief wave of attention around her case. But once the woman was identified, that speculation once again ended. And now the search for Caitlyn returned to the same unanswered question: exactly what had happened after that phone call from the Walmart in Midland. Over the years, investigators continued reviewing the case. Authorities have confirmed that the man Caitlyn travelled with had been identified, but because the investigation thankfully remains active, law enforcement has never publicly released his name. Officials have confirmed that he did work as a truck driver, and he did work in the oil industry in the area. Investigators also released information about a vehicle connected to the case. Authorities stated that Caitlyn had last been believed to be in a Ford F-250 pickup truck, associated with that same strange man she travelled with. And I mean, surely if this truck was involved in anything suspicious, someone would have recognised it. It's not exactly incognito. Despite those details though, many aspects of this case remain shrouded in mystery. But then, several years later, investigators began taking another look at the disappearance. In 2020, the case came under the attention of Texas Ranger Jeremy Cater. Cold cases are sometimes revisited when investigators believe that new information may exist, or when resources allow for them to take another look. In October of 2024, authorities announced that Caitlin Denison's case had now gained renewed investigative attention. That announcement was followed by a search operation in Midland County. Multiple law enforcement agencies participated in the effort, including the Texas Rangers and the Texas Department of Public Safety. Canine teams were used during the search, and investigators focused on a vacant area of land near County Road 1223.5 and County Road 160. The search covered approximately 10 acres, which, when you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, is a really specific area. Authorities, however, have not explained what led them to that specific location. However, they have confirmed that the search was directly connected to Caitlyn's disappearance. Despite the size of the search operation, investigators did not locate Caitlyn. No remains were discovered, and no new evidence was publicly announced. The investigation remained open, but the search confirmed that authorities were still actively examining the case. Today, Caitlin Denison has been missing since January 10, 2018. Her case remains unsolved. Investigators continue to ask the public for any information that could explain just what happened during the hours after her final phone call from Walmart. For Caitlyn's family, the search for answers has never stopped. Her sister Rachel and close friends have spent years trying to keep Caitlyn's story visible, and I help. They all continue to share information online, to organise awareness campaigns, and to raise funds to hire private investigators. They've also submitted Caitlyn's DNA profile to national databases, so any unidentified remains discovered anywhere in the country can be compared against hers. Every lead here still matters. Even the smallest detail could change the direction of the case.
If you have any information, please use one of these numbers. You can submit a tip online through the Texas Rangers Cold Case website. You can also contact the Texas Rangers by telephone. This is their number right here. If you call Crime Stoppers and you provide a tip that finds Caitlyn where she is, there's a $3,000 reward. We're also trying to raise more money to contribute to this reward. Here's the Crime Stoppers tip line right here. If you want to contact us directly, this is our email, findcaitlindedison@gmail.com, or you can text or call us at our tip line. This is the family-run tip line. This is our phone number, so if you text or call that, it'll come directly to us.
And there's something else about this case that I just feel that I should mention. 10 years before Caitlyn disappeared, her cousin, Brianna Denison, was abducted and then had her time ended in Reno, Nevada. Brianna was also 19 years old at the time. The man that did it, James Michael Biella, was later convicted and sentenced to death. Investigators have said that the two cases are not connected, but for the Denison family, this really must just be unthinkable. Two women from the same family, the same age, separated by 10 years. One of those stories is confirmed to have ended in tragedy. The other still has no answer. If by any chance you have any information about Caitlin Denison or her whereabouts, investigators ask that you contact the Texas Department of Public Safety or the Midland Police Department. Even the smallest piece of information could matter. What happened to Caitlin? What are your thoughts on this case? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and please do consider channel membership. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.